welcome Exiles to one of my first 10D builds of the league, my 100% Mind Over Matter Hierophant. This was made possible due to the new Foulborn helmet, Legacy, or not Legacy, but Foulborn, Mind of the Council, 30% Fizz taken from mana before life. Usually, 100% Mind Over Matter has been achievable in the past for a few cases. For example, at one point you could get 100% Mind Over Matter using Focus with 100% uptime. I did that a while back, and the next patch they made it so Focus mods could never be 100% uptime. You couldn't invest into CDR. They have built-in downtime. Or prior to some of that stuff, there used to be Mind Over Matter in various corruptions and various implicits that you could get. Legacy gear enables this sort of thing. But now in League, it's achievable through this Mind of the Council. And why is that? Because 70% Mind Over Matter is a normal number you can get to in League, and this 30% puts you over the threshold to get to 100% complete damage taken from mana before life. Now, this is going to cost you a decent amount. Number one is you have to take all of your fire and cold damage as lightning. This is achievable through Font of Thunder plus a Watcher's Eye mod for damage taken from fire and cold to lightning, and then combine that with Divine Flesh. The idea is 50% or 51% is actually necessary because there's some bug where if you only have 100% damage accounted for, then the leftover something or other, it kills you. Point is, you need 51% of fire and cold taken as lightning at least. Somebody basically discovered this was a bug, and that's what they posted as their solution on Reddit for their character that they were doing 100% Mind Over Matter with. But the idea is you take that portion of damage from fire and cold to lightning, and the other portion goes to Divine Flesh. You combine this with CI, which means half the damage goes to CI, you just don't take, and the other half goes to lightning, which you can full invest into maximum resistance, and you have 90 lightning res. This makes you very, very tanky to any sort of elemental attack because you're only taking half damage, and you can very easily just go into one maximum resistance, not have to gear res anywhere else, and you're actually pretty tanky to that. The weakness in this defense is, for my character on my budget level, I could not get proper physical mitigation. So you'll notice my character has 4.6k mana. This is actually fairly sufficient to be over like 100k max LE hit in terms of elemental damage mitigation. But then for our physical hit, yeah, it's pretty much just 5k. I mean, we have some endurance charges, right? But I don't have sufficient support to this character to add in armor scaling or any real phys mitigation. So that is the biggest gap in the defense, is the physical max hit. For Ubers, this was surprisingly effective. There are not that many things that hit physical damage. The things that do hit you for phys, they kill you. But most of the mechanics were largely elemental based or chaos based. You'll notice on the Ubers, we actually were able to clear 9 out of 10. The only one we failed was Cirrus, who has some physical beams that he can shoot you with from off screen, and he repeated the run off screen and then shoot you off screen, so you can't really see where he's shooting you from, and he kind of wrecked me. But the other Ubers we did relatively easy because, quite frankly, our elemental tank is very feels good, and we have good sustain on it. Fun things are when you have a full CI Mind Over Matter character like that, things that would normally completely brick your sustain, for example, Maven. Uber Maven can turn off recovery. That doesn't actually turn off mana recovery and doesn't really brick the character's sustain. Same thing with XR Ground, I believe. Maybe Cirrus Ground. I'm not 100% about Cirrus Ground. Cirrus Ground might still turn off mana, but one of the few cases where you can mess up, get that big 10-second timer put on you from Maven, and it doesn't actually break your character, which was nice to find out when I did that Uber Maven fight. When I messed up and misplayed it, it didn't brick. I didn't have to like reset or anything. My character was just like it was before the debuff got put on. So that's the idea. Now, how do we get 70% Mind Over Matter? It comes down to basically 4 sources. Number one is Mind Over Matter. That gets you 40%. Number 2 is Hierophant. You get 10% from here. There is a Scion node, a Scion Hiero Ascendancy. This gives 8%. This is harder to do because you need even more power charges, which I'll get into next, but 10% from Hiero. Then you get 10% from Watcher's Eye mod. That takes you to 60. And the final 10%, and the reason I reference power charges is because of this item called the Ilar Dex. It gives 1% per power charge as Mind Over Matter damage taken from mana before life. Our character happens to have 10 power charges, taking us to 70% damage taken from mana before life. When combined with the Mind of the Council, 100% of lightning damage, 100% of fizz damage will have to go to the mana pool before it goes to the life pool. And that actually ends up being surprisingly a good time in most cases until you run into some harder hitting fizz. You get the idea. So that was the setup. That's what we were building around with this character. I chose to get to 10 power charges using Ramira's Banquet for 1, Wand for 1, Templar for 1, the tree with every power node for another 3, takes you to 6. Your base is 3, that gets you to 9. And then Eiler Dex gives 1 more. That takes you to 10 power charges. That's how we got there. I chose to do Ralakesh Impatience because 10D is not a lot of budget. Something like a Grand Spectrum min power charges would give you back a boot slot, would allow you to go for, let's say, Skyforths, for example, a very high mana pair item or something like that. But minimum Grand Spectrums for power charges are just too expensive for a 10D budget. So we didn't fit anything like that. And we went for Ralakesh just for guaranteed power charge uptime. Because if you don't have those power charges on you at all times, your character will just die because a little bit of damage will bypass your mana and go straight to your life. You need to make sure you have 100% uptime on your charges. And that's how we did that. All right. Another thing is, and the awkwardness about the situation is, you cannot do this setup without Purity of Lightning and Clarity. You need both. Clarity you need to have the Watcher's Eye mod, and Purity of Lightning you need for, once again, the Watcher's Eye mod. You need damage taken from cold and fire while affected by Purity of Lightning, because the shield only does 40, Divine Flesh does 50. Where do you get that other 10? You need it to be here. Technically, if the game wasn't bugged, you could do the Bound by Destiny mod, which has 10% of elemental damage taken as chaos, and that would be even better. But the game is kind of bugged. For whatever reason, you need at least 1% over to have 101% conversion, because sometimes you can just randomly die. I don't quite understand it. Somebody tested this out and was playing their character, and they found that it was a bug, and the only solution they found was to just get 1% higher to not just have your character randomly fall over based on spaghetti code. Who knows, really? Don't shoot me. I'm just the messenger. This is what I found out reading that guy's post, who spent time freaking trying to troubleshoot to make his character work and not just randomly die. And that was the result. If they bug fix it, if they patch it, the ideal situation would realistically be the shield for 40, Divine Flesh for 50, Bound by Destiny for 10%, which requires 4 hunter items. And that would make you even tankier. But for right now, the solution is you need the Purity of Lightning Watcher's Eye mod. And the thing about this is, well, if you want your main HP pool to be mana, you don't really want to reserve 35% of your mana. One solution is Impulse's Broken Heart, which makes it so you don't have any reservation space for it. Another solution is there are notables on small clusters which give like 80% reservation efficiency for Purity of Lightning. You could probably run 2 of those and it would be very low reservation amount, like 10% type of thing, and it'd probably feel not that bad. That's another solution. So I was thinking about those options, and I was just too stretched for passives to make the clusters work, and that's why I went with Impulses. But that's another way you could add a chess piece back for some better mana scaling. For example, you'll notice on our character, we have 9 uniques. When you want to do this 100% Mind Over Matter, you're forced into at least, at bare minimum, 3 of them. Eiler Dex, Mind of the Council, and Font of Thunder. After that, you need power charges to get the Mind Over Matter from Eiler Dex, and let's be real, getting a +1 power charge ring that isn't Romera's Banquet cost a fortune. Getting +1 power charge that isn't Void Battery cost a fortune. We were just looking for some cheap, easy solutions, and that forces us into quite a few uniques. And then there's just some other uniques that pair well with it. For example, Oxium, it's like 300% increased damage, just seems like a decent option to go for. Another thing to note here is Ralakesh Impatience. We're using that obviously to force guaranteed uptime on charges. If you had a little bit more budget, you could go for Grand Spectrums. Stuff like that starts freeing up a lot of these unique slots. It's just a solution to a lot of the forced gearing you get into when you're trying to go for 100% Mind Over Matter. So anyways, that's the idea of 100% Mind Over Matter. We chose to pair it with some Totems and Ballistas with the Kinetic Fusillade. I just wanted to try Kinetic Fusillade once this patch, before next patch. So I kind of forced it in a really short time frame. TLDR in Kinetic Fusillade is you kind of want to have not that great of attack speed, or you really want to giga reduce your duration. And for me, I was just a bit too spent on passive point investments to realistically consider this amount of reduced duration. One of those things where it's like, I wanted to force in and try this skill, but it probably doesn't pair well with a build that's already forced into so many unique pieces. So part of me accounting for the lack of skill effect duration reductions I could get is I forced on totems, which then have 50% less built-in attack speed, which is normally a strict downside to try to nerf the power of totems. It technically also facilitated us not attacking very fast, which allows them to consistently shoot the projectiles from this skill. That was the short answer of the shoe-in reason why we did that. We also get some decent crit multi nodes here and here. Both those wheels are very strong, and we anoint another +1 for the amount of totems we have on the board. So yeah, that was the idea behind this 10D character. I'm going to be doing a few more of these before the PoE2 reveal, just trying to get this stuff done before that reveal, and then we'll probably swap over to some PoE2 content. I got a couple other fun builds planned, and we'll see how they go. This one did decently at 9 out of 10 Ubers. And yeah, as always, thanks for watching, Exiles. Take care, peace out, and have a good one.